Jazzcast Pros.
In this week's episode of the Doze Podcast, I'm tapping into creative rest, the type of rest that isn't just about stopping work. It's about engaging in different forms of beauty, play, and exploration that refill your creative well and enrich your life. This unique form of rest rejuvenates your mind and spirit, especially in the fast-paced, innovation-driven world we live in. I'm also joined by Stacey Mrva, a true creative, sharing with us how she draws from her surroundings to get re-inspired. She's also sharing a unique medium that will empower, enlighten, and expand the way you tap into your creativity. This truly is an episode you need to listen to. Creative rest is the key to helping you innovate, solve problems, and generate new ideas. Welcome back to the Doze Podcast. I'm your host, Soda Kuczkowski, your trusted sleep coach and guide, here to help you optimize your day so that you can take back your night. Now, I want to start off by saying that creative rest isn't just for those that work in a creative space or consider themselves creative. Creative rest is the rest you need to feel replenished in your creative energies. It's not about sleep or physical relaxation, but about allowing your mind to wander, daydream, and engage with beauty, nature, and the arts. It's an important type of rest needed to solve problems, innovate, or create on a daily basis. And it's different from physical rest in that it specifically targets the restoration of your creative energy and capacity for innovation and imagination. Creative rest is important for anyone from artists, writers, thinkers, to problem solvers. Everyone uses creativity. And you can end up with a creative rest deficit through continuous engagement in routine tasks without breaks, neglecting your hobbies or interests that stimulate your imagination, or by overlooking the importance of engaging with nature, art, and beauty in your daily life. So how do you know if you're experiencing a deficit in creative rest? Some questions you could ask yourself would be, do you feel stuck or blocked when trying to come up with new ideas? Do you find it hard to appreciate beauty in your surroundings? Or do small creative tasks feel more draining than they used to? Other things that you could ask would include, have you experienced a decrease in your ability to empathize with others or see things from different perspectives? Or do you feel that you're constantly in survival mode, focusing only on getting through your to-do list without room for creativity or innovation? Feeling uninspired, constantly in a creative rut, or unable to see the beauty in the world around you can all be signs that you need more creative rest. Every day you face tasks that demand your creativity. Whether it's problem solving, generating new ideas, or simply finding better ways to organize your life. And that constant demand can lead to a deficit where your creative well runs dry. So some examples would include, if you're struggling to write even a simple email or report or proposal. If you have difficulty in brainstorming sessions, feeling like you have nothing to contribute. Or a lack of enthusiasm for projects you usually find exciting. I know I have moments like these where sometimes I feel more inspired than others. So a self-hack I use is that when I'm feeling like I'm in a creative space, especially for my business, I'll feed or lean into it. So later, when I may be feeling uninspired, I can go back and tap into that creative space and draw from it. I call it stealing from myself, which my husband teases me for, but hey, it works for me. And when you think about creative rest at its core, it seeks to replenish your mind and spirit, allowing for that renewal of inspiration, motivation, and the ability to see the world through a fresh, imaginative lens. And it involves engaging in activities or environments that are restorative to your creative spirit, rather than merely taking a break from physical or mental activity. So creative rest can manifest itself through various forms, each tailored to your needs and preferences. And I've put together a list of ways to achieve the creative rest you may be seeking. First, by integrating beauty and nature into your daily life. This could mean working in a room with a view, or keeping plants in your workspace, or displaying artwork that inspires you. Dedicating time to hobbies that replenish your creative energy, such as painting or writing or music. I have a girlfriend who recently got back into painting, over the last year or so, and it really lights her up in a whole new way. It's an outlet that she's found that allows her to express herself, but it also works as like a daily anxiety reliever. Engaging in activities unrelated to your work that stimulate your imagination, like reading fiction or exploring something new. Artistic inspiration, immersing yourself in different forms of art, whether by visiting museums, listening to music, Reading poetry or watching performances can stimulate those creative juices. Mindful observation. Practicing mindfulness by fully immersing yourself in the present moment and observing your surroundings with curiosity and openness can lead to unexpected bursts of creativity. A digital detox. Taking those intentional breaks I'm always talking about from digital devices and social media can help clear that mental clutter, allowing for deeper reflection and creative thought. And last, creating new experiences. Experiencing new cultures, language, and traditions can broaden your perspective and inspire new ways of thinking and creating. That is why travel is often the cure for creative rest. I know personally, when I travel, it's either to be near water or soak in the sun rays. As where I live in Buffalo, New York, it's more overcast than sun-filled. But we also know that we can never live somewhere that's hot all the time. But it's a great escape to help us recalibrate and step out of our day-to-day. And second, we love visiting places where we're learning and soaking in new surroundings. So a few years ago, we traveled to Spain, France, Italy. It was a trip of a lifetime, and one we're always so happy that we took. We still smile thinking about all the things we saw and the beauty we soaked in, both in the sights and the food. But incorporating creative rest into your life doesn't have to be this grand gesture or taking elaborate, trips or planning for one. It's about finding small, everyday ways to replenish your creative energies, and you only need to find simple, everyday strategies that work for you. So it's about stepping outside the box and trying something new and challenging yourself. And to engage us on this end, today I'm joined by Stacey Mrva. She is a professional metal sculptor from Rochester, New York, with over 25 years of experience creating custom metal pieces for both public and private sectors. Her work, known for its blend of whimsy, humor, and functionality, thrives on client collaboration to realize their vision. Transitioning from an initial focus on jewelry making and metalsmithing at Syracuse University to metal sculpture, she found her passion in transforming steel into art with fluid and organic lines. Her diverse creations range from steel furniture to public art installations, incorporating materials like fabric, copper, and concrete to define her signature style. Her work aims to make art a part of everyday life and can be found featured in various public spaces in New York. Now, today's episode is geared towards creative rest. And while it isn't just for creatives like you, but really for anyone who's looking to get re-inspired or to help with problem solving, or for anyone who's looking for clarity in their decision making, or to really foster their sense of wonder. However, you are like the trifecta, right? Because you're creative. So I would imagine that naturally you're always looking for new ideas and way to inspire your next project. And you use a unique medium. And last, you're really connected to something that we could all use more of and to get realigned. And that, of course, is nature. So to get started, can you just share a little bit about your business, what you do, and how it can feed into what our listeners could do to step out of their comfort zone and really reignite their spark?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a metal artist. I've been welding and creating metal artwork for over 25 years. A few years ago, back in 2020, my husband and I moved out to the country. We're down in like the heart of the Finger Lakes, and the property has this beautiful barn on it that is now my welding studio. And I had left my day job in 2022 and was looking for another way to kind of bring some revenue in. And I always loved teaching. It was something I did a little bit right after college. And I worked with some young women at Edison Technical High School, and seeing them working together and inspiring them kind of pushed me to start offering welding classes for women and keeping this exclusive sort of safe space for women to come out and just try something new. I call it's not quite painting with a twist. We're using sparks and equipment, and you're learning something that's not usually accessible to your average person. So I run classes pretty much every weekend and a few weeknights. I do private sessions, and just bringing groups of 4 to 6 women together to create, learn something new, and leave with something that they made with their own hands in a short matter of hours. So that's what we do.
I know that with reading your history, you got started in jewelry making.
I did. Tiny metal, I always say.
Okay, so you were making like tiny metal. How exactly did it kind of evolve into this? Like, did you live on a farm previous to deciding to do this, or how did that all come about?
No, I'd been in Rochester for over 20 years and working in various studio spaces. Because of what I do, I need warehouse space and concrete floors and very specific places where I would have to find to work. And I always have loved to be out in nature, and finding a place out in the country was really kind of the ultimate goal, to be able to have my space be where I love to be and feel energized and refreshed. So we were really fortunate to find the property that we did, to be able to get out of the city and move out to the country.
When I first learned of you, right away, I Googled, like, how far is this from me? And it's like an hour and 44 minutes. So I'm like, is there a hotel nearby? Because I would love to be able to participate in something like this. Because like I said, I mean, you're in nature, first of all, getting reconnected with that. But, the medium that you're using to create art. And I mean, I'm going to ask that you share your website with our listeners, but some of the pieces that you make, I'm like, I want to make some, I would hope that I could make something as beautiful as what you have on your website. And you do sell your artwork as well, right?
Yes, I mostly work on a commission basis. So people would approach me to create something for them. I've been doing a lot of public artwork recently. If you go to the city of Rochester, all along South Clinton Avenue, there's 10 custom unique benches that all dot along the avenue that reflect sort of the history and the culture of the city of Rochester.
So you are basically contracted to create these different types of projects. So that kind of helps feed into the process a little bit. But what would you say is your artistic process for creating that creative rest that's needed to kind of get re-inspired in the work that you do?
Yeah, I was thinking about it knowing I was going to be speaking with you. And I actually find most of my inspiration usually right as I'm falling asleep or when I'm sort of waking up in the morning. And I think it's because I'm at a moment in my day where I'm done. There's no more thinking to be done. And my mind is sort of open, and it sort of comes as sort of images that sort of manifest in my mind. And then I just sort of give myself the space to sort of be there with that and kind of turn those thoughts around and ideas in my head. And I find that to be relaxing for me. It has been a process to not do that. What did I get done today? What do I have to do tomorrow? As I go to sleep, and just leaving myself open to let those creative ideas come, and just sort of waking up in the morning after sort of mulling that around in my head. And it's still kind of carried through as I start my day.
Are you someone who has a notebook next to your bed to jot things down?
I don't. To me, I think it's like if it comes, it's going to keep coming. Like it'll keep recurring and popping up until I sort of let it out and make it happen. That's the thing I love about my medium is it's a very immediate gratification, because I can go from an idea in my head to something tangible in my hands within an hour or half an hour. It's a very quick process from the thought to a piece.
To that execution. That's amazing, because I'm a creative in a lot of different ways. I'm a graphic artist. There's a lot of things that I could do, but I'd have to really experiment with that to see how I do with metal. I don't know if I could create the type of pieces that I saw on your website. They seem pretty intricate. Is it something hard to learn?
Well, what I do in my classes is I try to create projects that you're going to leave with something that looks cool. It's not going to be something like, oh, she just learned how to weld. I set you up for success. So I take out that whole element of trying to come up with something to create, because a lot of people that come to me are not creative in their minds, artistic people. So you're learning something new on top of trying to create something. So I want to remove that sort of piece of it so that you can just be present in the moment to just create. So you do leave with something artistic and creative.
Do you feel that being in nature helps to feed that creative process as well?
Absolutely. Because if you saw my pieces on the website, they're very organic. Like I almost look at my work as, if you can draw it, do a line drawing of something, I can make that out of metal. So a lot of my pieces are very organic and inspired directly by nature. So for me, being in nature is a way for me to get away from the studio, get away from my day to day, and just be present. I think for me, being able to just sort of pause and be in my body in the moment taking in deep breaths of beautiful natural air and just watching nature around me helps me get focused and inspired.
Well, I know when I first reached out to you and we kind of had our initial conversation about creative rest, and then you realized, most people might not even realize there's 7 different types of rest that we need. But in learning a little bit about it, you're like, you know what, innately, like this is part of my everyday. This is something that I'm constantly connecting with. So when collaborating closely with your clients to bring their visions to life, right? When you do your classes, is it one piece that everyone is really working on, or is it unique to the individual?
Yeah, so everybody is working on the same project. They're each making their own individual piece, and it's the same one for every student.
How do you ensure that you maintain your creative energy and restorative practices while engaging in the collaborative processes of really putting together like the ideas for your classes? Like, how do you come up with those ideas?
It's kind of interesting because I'll come up with something, I'll create it, and then I have to kind of think about, okay, how would someone who's never done this before approach this? So I usually end up kind of dialing back the initial idea and kind of simplifying it to something that people can do readily on their own. But one thing I was thinking about, like, I am truly an extrovert. So after a group of students leave my space, I'm energized and it inspires me to do my work. Some might think that it would deplete me from having to like show people and put my energy out there. But watching these women not only trying something new, getting out of their comfort zones, but also collaborating and working together and helping each other. A lot of what I do is just kind of stand back and let it all happen. And beautiful things occur when you do that. Watching like one woman who's like gets it a little bit more maybe than somebody else, and then they step in and sort of help each other. It's really inspiring. And it also showing people what I know, it helps boost my confidence, because it helps me see what I'm capable of and able to show others. The projects, I try to have them sort of be seasonal. So they're connecting with what's going on down here in nature. So like for the spring, we're going to be starting this Saturday. We're creating tulip sculptures.
I saw those. I love them.
Yeah. So what I like to do, because you're not only coming here to learn how to weld, you're getting to immerse yourself in the artist's experience. So I like to create projects that are very similar to the style of work that I would do. So you're kind of leaving with something similar to how I would work. Because what I do is being a woman welder, being trained as an artist, not as a welder, my approach to the medium is very different than someone that was, say, trained in trade school to learn how to weld. So I'm showing you how to bend pieces the way I would bend things, cutting things the way I would cut them, weld the way I would weld. Not to say that's the only way. This is the way I do it, sort of showing them how my process works. So they're kind of getting a bonus of, you're getting an inside take on how I create my work and also learning how to do the process itself.
With being that you are on a farm, are there any kind of practices that you engage in on a daily basis to kind of re-inspire? Do you take walk? How do you get connected with nature in your craft?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely times where we're kind of on a main road, but there's Canadice Lake, which is one of the preserved lakes. There's no houses on it, no motorboats on it. It's just the most serene spot you could go to. And it's just a few minutes from my house. So I'll very often in the middle of the day just take a pause, drive over there and go for a walk for like 45 minutes and just sort of watching, the birds landing on the lake and the wind in the trees and just the sounds and all the different elements of being out in nature. It centers me and brings me calm and opens up those pathways in my brain to just be open to those creative ideas and thoughts. And then even just being here in the summertime and in the spring, just all the birds coming back and the bees and the butterflies and, planting and gardening and getting my hands in the dirt and being in nature really, really helps center me. And as I said, inspire me.
I would have never thought to really engage with this type of medium had, it was my editor that shared your name with me. And I said, yes, absolutely. I want to have her on for Creative Rest, because when we're talking about creative rest, it's stepping outside of the traditional norms of what you think of. Like when someone travels, a lot of times they get re-inspired, and it's because, they're seeing new architecture or artwork, and they're stepping outside of their box. They're listening to new music, and they're engaging and expanding their minds and their experiences, right? So with something like welding, I mean, that's like really getting your hands into it. And then being a woman in STEM, like I love that. And I know you said that you work with some of the schools. So do you host classes for like high school students or young girls?
This past summer, I did a program for some 4-H students in the Rochester area. So there was about 10 of them that came down, and I would love to do more like that. I do get a lot of young women that'll come, in their teens, 16, 17, that are interested in going into welding, but just are not familiar with it. They're anxious about it. You're kind of going into this new setting that you're not familiar with. So they'll come and take a class with me just to get their hands on it, to make it feel a little more familiar before they go step into that, or even just to see if it's something that they like. So there is opportunity for young people to kind of experience this. And I hope to, in the future, find ways to have sort of consistent programs where I can bring young people out to experience this.
I'm Latina, and I sit on a board where we talk about, women in STEM, and then Hispanic women specifically, because it's such a small percentage. And we need more women in trades. I know what you do is more art than like function, but I mean, those two things can intertwine, right? In terms of what we're looking for, the way the world will look, and women make everything prettier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's getting the experience of learning from a woman, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had a lot of really great men in my life guide me and mentor me, but there's something about that. There's a comfort level, that experience of being taught by a woman that's just different. Even if it's just giving them that initial experience to then feel confident to go walk into a welding studio because they've already had their hands on the tools. I love being able to provide that.
Just as a last question, is there any kind of advice that you would give for emerging artists that, in terms of like using this type of medium? I mean, you didn't go to school specifically for this, but in terms of like getting into working with this type of material?
So you're questioning like how they would get into doing welding?
Because I mean, what you're doing is it's sculpture, right? So it's
right.
Very different. I feel like people have actually gotten away from that. I mean, we have the Albright Knott's art gallery here, where there's some pieces that are brought in from the outside, but really like even my niece is very much an artistic person, right? Like getting into using these different types of mediums to kind of express yourself and to create something new.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it kind of started off, I used to sew a lot when I was little, and I just love working with my hands and creating things. I used to love to draw too, but making things, like going from paper to 3-dimensional, has always really resonated with me. And, what I always tell my students in my classes is there's no reason why you can't do this. There's this mentality that we always get as women. If you're about to go grab a tool, it's, oh, be careful. Don't be careful. Make mistakes, try something. I still burn myself after 25 years of welding. It's just make those mistakes and push through them and just try, getting out of your comfort zone. I always say, like, if you're feeling nervous and anxious about doing this, flip that. Look at that more as you're excited. That's not anxiety. That's excitement. And watching a woman standing in front of me shaking because she's so scared to try this, by the end of the class is high-fiving people and smiling and just wants to come back and take another class. It's just pushing through that initial fear and trying to look at that fear in a different way. There's something that's more that there's only one moment you're going to have like that where you're afraid of that. And then you push through, and then there you are, you've done the thing.
When I heard about your business and then I went on your website and I saw all the creations, and I was like, man, I felt empowered. I was just like, I want to do that. I want to put on the mask. I want to put on the gloves, and I want to like get in there. I think that that's like a message of empowerment as well. Exactly like what you were saying, like, don't be afraid to do this. And it's good to step out. Even again, that goes into that creative rest, pushing those limits, right? And expanding kind of your mind and what you're able to do physically and mentally. So I love the work that you're doing, and I would love for more people to know about it. Is there your website or where they can book classes? Where can people learn about you?
Yeah. So if you go to www.ironwoodstudiosinc.com, that will take you to my Eventbrite page where you can sign up for classes. And then a really great way to see what's going on over here is if you go to Instagram, Stacey Mrva Metal is my handle. And there's a lot of great videos on there where you can kind of see what we're up to over here. So that's another good place to check out.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I cannot wait to check it out myself. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Really pleasure meeting you.
By recognizing the signs of creative rest deficit and taking steps to integrate this form of rest into your life, you can enhance your creativity, productivity, and sense of fulfillment. Creative rest is not just about avoiding burnout. It's about actively nurturing that part of yourself that craves beauty, inspiration, and innovation. It's about giving yourself permission to pause, reflect, and engage with the world in a way that feeds your soul and sparks your creativity. If you're engaged in any form of creative work, understanding and incorporating creative rest into your routine is crucial for sustaining your passion and productivity over the long term. So I have an ask of you. I want you to share with me, what are your experiences with creative rest? Have you found unique ways to incorporate it into your daily life? Share your stories in the comment section and let's inspire each other to embrace the beauty of creative rest. Until next time, thank you for listening. Remember to join us next week as I continue to explore innovative ways to improve your sleep and revolutionize your rest. If you've enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe to the Doze Podcast. I still have lots to share with you as we work together towards creating solutions around your unique sleep challenges and needs. Until then, remember your pure potential if you change how well you sleep.